your blood. I'm covered by your blood. Your precious blood. Your holy blood.
In the time of Jesus, what we refer to now as the Old Testament was, to the Jews then, the Holy Scriptures. And the Holy Scriptures represented the basis for every discussion, the way of life of the Jewish person at the time, every and anything that they were to have in their culture. Hence, when Jesus referred to a custom of the Jews, it had its origins, its foundation in the Holy Scriptures. The important point here is that this was the starting point for the Jews at the time. This was their reference point. It is right, it is correct, because it is in the Holy Scriptures. It is incorrect, it is errant, because it is not in the Holy Scriptures. What the church has to learn today is to have the same disposition of the Jews in the time of Jesus, where we can say our reference point is the Holy Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, or the Holy Scriptures and the New Testament writings. Very often, Americans, for example, do a better job in crediting their Constitution than Christians do the foundation to the Christian faith. In other words, Americans turn to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. They turn to the Bill of Rights. They turn to the written Constitution, what the founding fathers envisioned, what they wrote, and what established the basis for the American Republic. So, for example, an American might have a gun, a legal gun, and there might be a shooting, and one might suggest there need to be gun control. Then the American person will respond by saying, it's my constitutional right. It's my Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. When you have in different parts of the world a suggestion or a movement to restrict speech, it becomes the greater challenge of modern time. How much can we say? What should we allow an individual of a given nation to say? What should we allow our people to say? Should we have restriction? In the United States of America, this is no dispute, or no dispute that gain great traction. Why? Because the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. So the American Constitution is so pivotal, and there's a great level of rigidity when it comes to what you can change and cannot change about the American person's right. The Constitution is fundamental, it is foundational, it is the basis for the American culture. And even though you may have a movement, you have the civil rights movement, you have a lot of movements in the United States of America over the years, over the last 200 plus centuries. Yet it is still the Constitution, it is still the beginning, the starting point, what the founding fathers wrote and have made the bedrock, if you will, of that nation. The psyche of the American person is somehow bent around the constitutionality of the American person's existence. In other words, we exist the way we exist because the founding fathers have established an American ideal that we have taken with us, we have handed down from generation to generation, and we still are Americans today as they were Americans 200 plus years ago. There are changes over the years, but it's still the Constitution. It is still the stable Constitution of the United States of America that guaranteed the American person his way of life, or what he can expect, or how he might expect to be defended and protected by the American law. The church today, unfortunately, should be like that, but is not. The church changed its doctrines over the years, over the centuries, over the last 2,000 years. We believe things today and practice things today that are contrary to the Holy Bible. Yet in the time of Jesus, it was clear that it was the law of Moses, the writings of the prophets, the psalmist, the Holy Scriptures that lay the foundation to the Jewish person's way of life. In the time of the apostles, this understanding was clear in the church, where, for example, in Acts chapter 2, verse 42, it says that they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine, in the breaking of bread and fellowship. It was the teachings of the apostles that they received from Jesus that laid the foundation to the early Christians' thinking, the early Christians' way of life. Here we have a great problem where we do not have a very clear doctrine for Christians. We do not have a very clear or singular doctrinal foundation to the Christian church. The doctrine of the apostle is the doctrine. Yet we have so many branches in the church declaring conflicting gospels, conflicting doctrines, conflicting morals and values. My fellow Christians Institute is simply to present biblical Christian heritage, education in biblical Christian heritage, as an avenue to assist the church in becoming what God intends for it to become. And in this case, holy